Silence is a child's loudest scream. Hi, my name is Tishinga, and today I'm going to be running the Child Sexual Exploitation Workshop. This workshop does cover some sensitive subjects, so if at any point you feel uncomfortable or want to leave, please don't hesitate to ask a member of staff. Today's learning objectives. We want to find out what CSE is, how and why it happens, to identify and rectify CSE myths, to identify the impacts of CSE, and to identify potential signs of CSE. So, what is CSE? Pause the video now and have a discussion with either your group or your tutor about what you think CSE is. This next video is a silent film that was produced by a group of young people to raise awareness on CSE. They also wanted to show how young people could be affected by it. You might recognize somebody familiar. Hopefully the film gave you a bit more insight about what CSE is, how young people can be affected by it, and how it occurs. CSE stands for Child Sexual Exploitation. CSE is a form of sexual abuse. Children or young people are tricked into thinking they're in a loved or in a consensual relationship. They are exploited and manipulated by an individual or group that the victim feels controlled and threatened by. There are many myths and misconceptions that surround CSE. These are a few that you might recognize. Abuse is the fault of the victim. Only children in care are at risk. All victims are female and promiscuous. Offenders are gangs of Asian men. Online CSE is not real abuse. Victims are rebellious teens or runaways. Offenders are aggressive and reclusive individuals. Victims are 14 to 16 and abusers are 25 to 40. In reality, abusers can be any age, religion, ethnicity, or gender, and they can be from any background or community. They can be in a position of power, they can be seen as respectable members of society, and they're not always in a gang. They can be in jobs and normal education. They can be anyone. Victims can be any age up to 18. They can be any gender, any ethnicity, and come from any background or community. However, there are other groups that tend to be more vulnerable than others. These can include children between 12 and 15, young people affected by recent bereavement or loss, homeless young people who have low self-esteem and low self-confidence, and young people who are involved with gangs or live in gang-affected areas. So, how does CSE happen? Well, abusers manipulate children into doing sexual activities by doing a range of different things. These include giving them gifts, giving them money, giving them access to things that they don't normally have. These can be things like drugs and alcohol, phones, games, loads of different things. CSE doesn't always have to be physical. It can happen online too. This includes stuff like sending or posting explicit images, taking part in sexual activities over webcam or Snapchat, and having sexually explicit conversations via text, emails, or anything else like that. Something that you should know is that it is illegal for an adult to travel with the intention of meeting a child to perform sexual acts or anything of that nature. So how does online CSE happen? Typically, abusers use online platforms to build relationships with children so that they can sexually exploit them or traffic them and sexually abuse them. They then tend to collect images and videos and things like conversation histories in order to manipulate them, blackmail them, so that they can coerce them into doing sexual activities. So, why does sexual exploitation happen? Well, there's not one reason why someone would commit such a crime, but abusers tend to do it for a range of different reasons, such as gaining financial gain. Maybe they're going to get some money from bringing a child forward to be sexually exploited. Or maybe they're doing it to feed a drug or an alcohol addiction. Some people do it because they want to gain status in a particular group. And some people do it as part of a gang initiation. It's really, really important as well to take note that whatever the situation might be, the abuser always has some sort of advantage over the victim, whether this be financial, intellectual, maturity, age, or physical strengths. That's how they take the power. So, is CSE related to any other crimes? Not all the time, but sometimes it can be. Can you guys think of any crimes that CSE could be related to? Pause the video now and have a discussion amongst yourselves or with your tutor. Let's see if you guys got any of the answers that we got. It can be related to drug-related offences, immigration-related offences, domestic abuse, child trafficking, grooming, including online, and gang-related offences. There are many impacts of child sexual exploitations. These can be on the victims and to all the other people that are close to them. These can be short-term and long-term, and they're split into 4 main groups. The psychological effects. The short-term ones can include stuff like anxiety, depression, addiction, low self-esteem, self-harm, and eating disorders. These can transition into longer-term ones, such as PTSD, long-term low self-esteem, issues with self-worth, depression, nightmares, flashbacks, and attachment problems. The social effects. The short-term social effects can include isolation from friends and family, bad effects on education from lack of attendance, loss of interest in hobbies and activities. These again can transition into long-term ones, such as struggling to develop and maintain relationships, avoiding certain places and people due to the severe trauma, and also complete social isolation. The short-term physiological impacts can include physical injuries, pregnancy, STDs, weight loss, sickness, and self-harm. These again can transition into long-term ones, such as having general ill health, STDs that can cause problems with fertility, hair loss, poor diets due to addiction. CSE can also have a massive economic impact. The short-term economic impacts include debts for various things such as drugs, alcohol, and technology. This creates a need for money which could result in stealing and other criminal activities. The longer-term economic effects can mean that a child is unable to work when they're older. They could have problems getting houses when they're older and claiming benefits and getting involved into further education. It's really important that we talk about the potential signs of CSE. If we're able to spot them early enough, we could be the reason that a child doesn't fall victim to these kind of things. We could alert a member of staff, the police, our parents, a reliable adult that can help in that situation. But it's very, very important to remember that although these are important signs, it doesn't necessarily mean that a CSE is occurring. When looking at these signs, it's very, very important to think, is this behaviour out of character for this person? And if it is, it could be a cry for help. So, some of the potential signs include unhealthy or inappropriate sexual behaviour, being frightened of some people, places or situations, being secretive, sharp changes in mood or character, having money or things they can't or won't explain, physical signs of abuse like bruises or bleeding in the genital or anal area, alcohol or drug misuse, STIs, STDs in children, youth pregnancy, having a much older boyfriend or girlfriend, staying out late or overnight, having a new group of friends, missing from home or a care home or stopping going to school or college, hanging out with older people or other vulnerable groups or in antisocial groups, being involved in a gang, or being involved in criminal activities like selling drugs or shoplifting. Again, it's very important that when you're looking at all of those signs to think, right, is this person behaving out of character? So if someone who never stays out really, really late all of a sudden, you have to think to yourself, could this be a sign? Now we're going to talk about facts and statistics surrounding CSE. Now it's important to note that CSE is not yet a specific and legislated crime. So instead, people are convicted for sexual activity with children. This means that the figures that you're about to see are underrepresentatives of the real figures. So instead, CSE is a much bigger problem than what you're about to see. The number of sexual offences against children in 2012-2013 in England was 17,585. The number of sexual offences against children in 2017-18 in England was 52,965. This means that the issue has been getting progressively worse. The proportion of all sexual offences that were against children in 2017-18 was 38%. In 2017-18, 16% of recorded CSE crimes in England and Wales involved online CSE. CSE in England. Between 2010 and 2011, how many children do you think displayed 3 or more signs of being at risk of CSE? The answer is 16,500. Between 2011 and 2010, how many confirmed victims of CSE do you think there were? The answer is 2,409. However, the Office of Children's Commissioner predicted that the real figure was much higher. This was because not all children and young people report CSE. In 2017, how many children were trafficked for sexual exploitation? The answer is 560. These cases are all related with the exchange of money or other goods. There are currently 40,000 children in England who are in contact with children's social care to whom CSE is a concern. CSE in South Yorkshire. Between February 2017 and January 2018, how many CSE referrals did South Yorkshire Police receive? The answer is 520. Referrals are reported concerns from schools, social services, or family members. During the same period, how many CSE offences were recorded? 580. This means that some of the above cases went unnoticed. How many CSE cases are being investigated by South Yorkshire Police? 355. More than half of those recorded over 11 months last year. In Rotherham alone, approximately 1,400 children were sexually exploited between the years of 1997 and 2013. Out of 2,409 victims in 2010 and 2011, how many do you think were female? The answer is 72%. However, do remember that regardless of gender, you can fall victim to CSE. What do you think is the most common age of known victims of CSE? The answer is 15. Females aged 10 to 24 are more likely to be victimised than other groups. Out of 16,500 children at high risk in South Yorkshire, how many do you think are in care? The answer is 35%. So now it's time for the scenarios and research task. In each group, you're going to be given a real case study. Your task is to create a report on it. We want to know a summary of the case study. We would like you to pinpoint the signs that CSE is occurring. We want you to identify any particular reason why this person was specifically vulnerable, and to also add in any information that you have learned throughout this PowerPoint. You're then going to present your reports. Make sure that everyone in your group speaks if they're comfortable. Pause the video and take between 10 to 15 minutes to complete this task. Now it's time to report. But remember, if you feel uncomfortable at any time, please tell a member of staff. Pause the video and take between 10 to 15 minutes to complete this task. There are many different services online and on the phone and in person that you can access if you've been a victim of CSE or if you know someone who's a potential victim. These are some of them. Childline. Childline is a free, private and confidential service where you can be you. Anytime, day or night, you can talk to them and they are there to support you. Their number is 0800 1111 or you can sign up online. Another great organisation is the NSPCC. Their website is www.nspcc.org.co.uk. They're a website that provides you more in-depth information and advice regarding CSE. Just head to the website and find the CSE section under Preventing Abuse. The NSPCC is also partnered with Childline. I hope that through this session, you now understand what CSE is. Hopefully you feel more confident in spotting and identifying the signs. And most importantly, I hope you know where to go to turn to for advice and help. If you have any feedback that could help us improve this session, please visit lmsociety.co.uk. Thank you for listening.